There is a silent tragedy unfolding in millions of lives right now. People wake up every day, go through their routines, meet others, smile when needed, and do everything that looks normal on the outside, while quietly feeling disconnected from themselves on the inside. It doesn't happen in one moment. It happens slowly, through fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of disappointing others. So they adjust, they hide, they suppress their truth, and without realizing it, they slowly build a life that looks right, but no longer feels like their own. And then one day, in a quiet moment no one else notices, a question rises from within, a question they can no longer escape. When did I start living a life that isn't mine? Buddhist wisdom teaches that true suffering is not what the world does to you, but how far you drift away from your own inner truth. And this video is about that silent drift, and how to finally come back to yourself. You don't lose yourself in one moment. You lose yourself in small acts of forgetting who you are. It never happens suddenly. No one wakes up one morning and completely loses themselves. It is much quieter than that. Much slower, almost invisible while it is happening. It begins in ordinary moments that don't seem important at all. You say yes when your heart clearly wanted to say no. You stay silent when something inside you wanted to speak. You laugh along when you actually feel uncomfortable. You agree just to avoid tension. You adjust yourself just to keep things smooth. And because nothing bad happens in that moment, you move on without thinking. But something deeper is shifting inside you. Every time you ignore your inner voice, you send it a message. You are not important right now. And the more you repeat this, the quieter that voice becomes. Not because it disappears, but because you stop trusting it. Over time, you start living in a way that is based more on avoiding discomfort than being true to yourself. You begin to choose peace on the outside while slowly losing peace on the inside. And this is where self-forgetting begins. You still function. You still talk. You still meet people. You still fulfill responsibilities. From the outside, nothing looks wrong. But internally, something feels off. Like you are present in life, but not fully inside it. And the most dangerous part is this. You adapt so well to ignoring yourself that you stop noticing you are doing it. It becomes your normal. You no longer ask, what do I truly feel? Instead you ask, what will keep things easy? You stop checking in with your own heart and start checking the room instead. You begin to live by reactions, moods, and expectations around you. Slowly, your true voice does not get destroyed. It gets buried, and one day, you feel a strange emptiness that is hard to explain. You are surrounded by people, yet disconnected from yourself. You are doing everything right, yet something feels missing. That missing piece is not outside of you. It is your own presence. This is why awareness is so important in Buddhism. Not awareness of others, but awareness of yourself in each moment. Because the self is not lost in one big event. It is lost in thousands of small moments where you forget to stay with your truth, and the way back is just as quiet as the loss. It starts when you begin noticing again, when you pause before saying yes, when you listen to your discomfort instead of escaping it, when you allow your voice to exist, even if it feels unfamiliar at first, because you don't return to yourself by becoming someone new. You return by stopping the small acts of forgetting who you already are. The more you try to be everything for everyone, the more you become nothing to yourself. There is a quiet exhaustion that comes from constantly trying to be enough for everyone around you. At first, it feels like kindness. You tell yourself you are just being understanding, flexible, caring, mature. You become the person who adjusts first, apologizes first, sacrifices first. You become easy to depend on because you never want to disappoint anyone. But slowly, without realizing it, your entire life starts revolving around how others feel about you. You begin waking up with invisible pressure on your mind. Pressure to respond the right way, to behave the right way, to keep everyone comfortable. You start carrying emotional weight that was never yours to carry, and because you are so focused on holding everyone else together, you stop noticing how disconnected you are becoming from yourself. The human mind can only stretch so far before it begins to break quietly inside. When you try to become everything for everyone, you slowly lose the ability to feel what is real for you. Your decisions are no longer guided by your own heart. They are guided by fear. Fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of disappointing people, fear of not being accepted. And the painful part is this: no matter how much you give, it never truly feels enough. Because once people become used to your constant availability, your constant understanding, your constant self-sacrifice, they begin expecting it. What once felt appreciated slowly becomes normal. And now you are trapped in a role you created by abandoning your own limits. You smile even when you are emotionally tired. You listen even when your own mind is heavy. You keep showing up for others while quietly disappearing from yourself. And one day, you start feeling strangely empty. Not because you gave love, but because you gave yourself away without balance. Buddhist wisdom teaches that attachment creates suffering. And one of the deepest attachments is the attachment to being liked, needed, or approved by everyone. Because when your identity depends on external acceptance, your inner peace becomes fragile. Every reaction affects you. Every opinion shakes you. Every disappointment feels personal. You become emotionally controlled by the world around you, and this is where many people lose themselves without noticing. They become experts at reading others, but strangers to their own soul. They understand everyone's emotions, but ignore their own pain. They know how to comfort others, but no longer know what comforts them. The more they try to belong everywhere, the more homeless they feel inside themselves. Real peace begins when you realize something important. You were never born to carry the responsibility of being everything for everyone. You are not responsible for making every person understand you. You are not responsible for keeping everyone comfortable at the cost of your own spirit. You are not responsible for shrinking yourself so others never feel challenged. Because a life spent constantly performing for acceptance is not freedom. It is emotional slavery dressed as kindness. And the moment you stop trying to be everything for everyone, something beautiful begins to happen. Your mind becomes quieter, your decisions become clearer. Your presence becomes more real. You stop chasing approval and start reconnecting with yourself. And for the first time in a long time, you no longer feel divided into pieces for different people. You begin feeling whole again. When your mind is trapped in others' opinions, your own life starts to fade into silence. One of the saddest ways a person loses themselves is not through failure, rejection, or heartbreak. It happens when their mind becomes completely occupied by what other people think. At first, it seems small. You replay a conversation in your head after it ends. You wonder if you sounded strange. You think about someone's reaction more than your own feelings. You start adjusting your behavior based on how people might judge you. And slowly, your inner world becomes crowded with noise that never stops. You begin waking up thinking about expectations. You spend your day trying to avoid criticism. You carry invisible pressure in every interaction. Even in silence, your mind is busy performing for people who are not even present. This is how your own life starts fading into the background. Because when your attention is always fixed on others, you stop being connected to yourself. You stop asking, what do I truly want? What do actually bring me peace? What feels honest to my spirit? Instead, your mind becomes trapped in questions like, what will they think? Will they approve? Will I disappoint them? Will they still accept me if I change? And the more you live inside these questions, the quieter your own soul becomes. Many people do not even realize how much of their life is controlled by invisible fear. Fear of judgment shapes their choices more than love shapes their dreams. They choose careers to impress others. They stay in situations that drain them. They hide parts of themselves to remain accepted. They silence their truth because they are terrified of being misunderstood. And after years of this, they no longer know who they are without an audience. Buddhist wisdom teaches that suffering grows when the mind becomes attached to things outside its control. And other people's opinions are one of the most unstable things you can build your identity around. People change constantly. Their moods change. Their views change. Their understanding changes. One day they praise you, another day they criticize you. If your peace depends on their approval, your mind will never truly rest. You become emotionally pulled in every direction. A single comment ruins your mood. A small rejection feels like a personal collapse. Someone's silence becomes a source of anxiety. Someone's approval becomes temporary relief. And without noticing, your emotional state no longer belongs to you. It belongs to the reactions of others. This creates a very deep loneliness inside a person. Because while you are constantly connected to everyone else's thoughts about you, you become disconnected from your own inner life. You know what everyone expects from you, but you no longer know what your own heart needs. You become highly aware of the world around you, but deeply unfamiliar with yourself. And this is why so many people feel empty, even when their life looks full from the outside. Their mind never gets to rest inside its own presence. It is always chasing validation, always predicting judgment, always trying to control how they are seen. But peace begins the moment you stop building your identity through other people's eyes. The moment you stop explaining yourself to every passing opinion. The moment you stop treating criticism like absolute truth. The moment you realize that not every judgment deserves emotional access to your spirit. Because the truth is, no one can hear your inner voice for you. Only you can sit quietly enough to listen to it again. And when you finally do, something beautiful starts happening. Your mind becomes less crowded. Your decisions become more honest. Your energy stops leaking into unnecessary fear. For the first time in a long time, you stop living as a reflection of everyone around you. And you slowly begin returning to your own life again. Not every voice deserves access to your inner world. Some are just noise you mistook for truth. One of the most important things a person can learn in life is this: not every voice deserves a place inside your mind. But many people never realize this. They carry every opinion like it is truth. Every criticism feels personal. Every judgment becomes something they replay again and again in silence. And slowly, their inner world becomes crowded with the voices of people who were never meant to guide their life in the first place. This is how peace disappears. Not always through major pain or tragedy, but through constant mental noise. Through carrying words that should have been left behind the moment they were spoken. Someone misunderstands you and you carry it for weeks. Someone criticizes you unfairly And it changes how you see yourself. Someone projects their insecurity onto you, and you begin doubting your own worth. Without noticing, you start giving people emotional authority over a life they do not even fully understand. And the dangerous part is that not all voices come from wisdom. Some people speak from jealousy, some speak from anger, some speak from their own unresolved pain. Some criticize you simply because your growth reminds them of what they avoided in themselves. But when you are disconnected from your own inner clarity, every outside voice starts sounding important. You begin absorbing energy that was never yours to carry. Buddhist wisdom teaches that the mind suffers when it becomes attached to external conditions. And one of the deepest traps is becoming emotionally dependent on how others define you. Because once you hand your identity to the opinions of people, your peace becomes unstable. You start living defensively. You over-explain yourself. You fear being misunderstood. You constantly monitor how others perceive you. And eventually, you become mentally exhausted. Not because life is too heavy, but because your mind has become overcrowded with unnecessary voices. There are people who speak about you without truly knowing your heart. People who judge a single moment and think they understand your entire soul. People who only see you through the limits of their own perception. And yet, you allow their words to enter deeply into your spirit. This is why many people lose confidence without knowing why. Their inner world is no longer protected. Every opinion enters freely. Every judgment leaves a wound. Every negative word becomes something they carry into the night. But wisdom is learning that your mind is sacred space. Not everyone deserves access to it. Just because someone speaks does not mean you must absorb it. Just because someone misunderstands you does not mean you must shrink yourself to correct them. Just because someone criticizes you does not mean their voice is truth. Some words are guidance. Some words are projection. And learning the difference changes your entire life. A peaceful person is not someone who never hears negativity. A peaceful person is someone who no longer allows every voice to live inside them. Because if you keep carrying every opinion, you will eventually forget your own truth beneath the weight of everyone else's noise. You will start questioning your value, questioning your path, questioning your identity, not because something is wrong with you, but because you have listened to too many voices that were disconnected from understanding. And this is why silence becomes powerful. Not silence from fear, silence from clarity. The kind of silence where you stop chasing validation from people who cannot see you clearly. The kind of silence where you no longer fight to defend yourself against every misunderstanding. The kind of silence where you trust your inner truth more than temporary opinions. Because peace begins when you realize that protecting your mind is not selfish. It is necessary. Your inner world shapes your entire life. The thoughts you keep become your emotional reality. The voices you believe become the foundation of your self-image. So choose carefully what enters your spirit. Not every voice deserves your energy. Not every opinion deserves your suffering. And not every judgment deserves a home inside your heart. Sometimes the greatest freedom in life is learning to let certain words pass through you without allowing them to define you. You cannot discover your true self while constantly editing it for approval. One of the deepest tragedies in life is when a person spends so many years trying to become acceptable to others that they never discover who they truly are. At first, it feels harmless. You adjust your personality depending on who you are around. You hide certain thoughts because you fear judgment. You soften your truth to avoid rejection. You become careful with your words, your emotions, even your natural way of being. And little by little, your life starts becoming a performance instead of an honest expression of your soul. You stop asking yourself, "Is this true to me?" And instead you ask, "Will this make people like me more?" This is how people slowly lose connection with their authentic self. Not because they are fake, not because they are weak, but because somewhere along the way they learned that acceptance felt safer than honesty. So they began editing themselves. They edited their emotions to seem easier to handle. They edited their personality to fit different environments. They edited their dreams so they would sound more acceptable. They edited their pain so nobody would feel uncomfortable around them. And after years of doing this, they no longer know where the performance ends and the real self begins. This creates a quiet emptiness inside a person. Because deep down, the soul becomes tired of pretending. There is exhaustion in constantly monitoring yourself. Exhaustion in overthinking how you appear. Exhaustion in shaping your identity around the comfort of others. You begin feeling disconnected, even in rooms full of people. Not because nobody is around you, but because nobody is truly meeting the real you. How can they? Even you have hidden that version away. Buddhist wisdom teaches that clarity comes when illusion falls away. And one of the greatest illusions people live inside is that they must constantly reshape themselves to deserve love, belonging, or respect. But real peace is never found through performance. Because no matter how accepted you become, a painful question remains inside. Would they still value me if I stopped pretending? That question silently follows many people through life. It follows them in relationships where they cannot fully relax. It follows them in conversations where they constantly filter themselves. It follows them in careers they chose to impress others instead of fulfill themselves. And over time, they begin feeling like strangers inside their own existence. The saddest part is that many people become so skilled at adapting that they mistake self-abandonment for maturity. They think constantly shrinking themselves means they are being wise. They think suppressing their truth means they are keeping peace. But inner peace built on self-erasure is not peace at all. It is silent suffering. Your true self cannot grow in an environment where it is constantly being edited for approval. A flower cannot bloom while being cut apart to fit someone else's idea of beauty, and the human spirit cannot fully awaken while living under the fear of rejection. There comes a moment in life where healing begins through honesty, not loud honesty, not aggressive honesty, but quiet honesty with yourself. The honesty to admit what truly drains you. The honesty to notice where you pretend the most. The honesty to recognize how much energy you spend trying to be accepted. Because the version of you that feels the most peaceful will never be the version that performs perfectly for everyone. It will be the version that no longer feels afraid to exist naturally. The moment you stop editing yourself for approval, something beautiful begins happening inside you. Your mind becomes lighter, your emotions become clearer, your relationships become more real. You stop living as a carefully managed image and start living as a human being again. And maybe for the first time in your life, you begin feeling something you have not felt in years. The quiet relief of no longer hiding from yourself. People-pleasing is not kindness. It is the slow surrender of your own identity. There is a difference between being kind and losing yourself, trying to keep everyone happy. But many people confuse the two for most of their lives. They believe constantly sacrificing themselves makes them a good person. They believe always saying yes means they are loving. They believe carrying everyone's emotions means they are strong. But deep inside, they are slowly becoming exhausted. Because people-pleasing does not come from peace. It often comes from fear. Fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of disappointing others, fear of being misunderstood, fear of not being needed anymore. And so, to avoid these fears, a person begins abandoning themselves little by little. They ignore their own limits. They suppress their own feelings. They stay available even when emotionally drained. They tolerate things that hurt them, just to avoid upsetting someone else. And over time, this becomes their identity. They become the one who always understands, the one who always adjusts, the one who always sacrifices. Everyone praises their kindness, but nobody sees the silent damage happening inside them. Because while they are taking care of everyone else's comfort, nobody is taking care of theirs. Not even themselves anymore. This is the hidden pain of people-pleasing. You become so focused on being accepted that you stop asking yourself what your soul actually needs. You become emotionally available to everyone except yourself, and eventually you begin feeling invisible in your own life. Buddhist wisdom teaches that attachment creates suffering, and one of the deepest attachments is the need to be liked by everyone around you. Because once your self-worth depends on approval, you begin shaping your entire behavior around avoiding rejection. You stop acting from truth, you start acting from fear, and fear slowly changes a person from the inside. It teaches them to stay silent when they need to speak. It teaches them to apologize for things that are not their fault. It teaches them to carry emotional burdens that were never theirs to hold. The sad part is that many people who constantly please others are deeply lonely inside. Not because nobody is around them, but because nobody truly knows them. People only know the version that keeps sacrificing, the version that keeps giving, the version that keeps saying yes. But the real self stays hidden underneath exhaustion. And after years of this, something painful begins happening. Resentment quietly grows inside the heart, not because you are selfish, but because the soul was never meant to survive without honesty, boundaries, and self-respect. A person cannot endlessly pour from themselves while never receiving rest, understanding, or emotional space in return. Eventually, the spirit becomes tired. You begin feeling emotionally numb. You lose excitement for things you once loved. You feel irritated without understanding why. You feel empty even after doing everything for everyone. This is what happens when kindness loses balance. Real kindness does not require self-destruction. Real compassion includes yourself too. Buddhism never teaches you to disappear for others. It teaches success, balance, and inner peace. And there is nothing peaceful about constantly abandoning your own needs just to keep everyone else comfortable. The truth is, people who truly care about you will not require you to erase yourself in order to love them. You do not have to suffer to prove your value. You do not have to constantly sacrifice your peace to deserve connection. And you do not have to carry everyone's emotional weight to earn acceptance. One of the most powerful moments in life is when you finally realize that boundaries are not cruelty. They are self-respect. Saying no does not make you heartless. Taking space does not make you selfish. Protecting your peace does not make you cold. It makes you emotionally honest. And when you stop people-pleasing, something inside you slowly begins healing. You stop living with constant emotional pressure. You stop fearing every reaction. You stop betraying yourself just to avoid temporary discomfort. For the first time, your kindness comes from sincerity instead of fear. And that changes everything. Because true peace begins the moment you stop sacrificing your identity just to remain acceptable in the eyes of others. Your peace begins the moment you stop explaining your existence to people who don't understand you. One of the most exhausting things a person can do is spend their life trying to convince others that they deserve to exist exactly as they are. You explain your intentions, you explain your decisions, you explain your boundaries, you explain your silence, you explain your pain. Again and again, hoping that if you can just find the right words, people will finally understand your heart correctly. But the painful truth is this: not everyone is willing to understand you. Some people have already decided who you are before you even speak. Some only see you through their own wounds, expectations, or limitations. And no amount of explaining can force clarity into a mind that has already chosen misunderstanding. Yet many people spend years trapped in this cycle. They over-explain themselves in conversations. They defend every personal choice. They feel guilty for disappointing others even when they are simply protecting their peace. They carry anxiety because they fear being judged unfairly. And slowly, life starts feeling emotionally heavy. Because when your mind constantly feels responsible for how everyone perceives you, you never truly relax inside yourself. You begin living defensively instead of peacefully. Every action becomes emotionally loaded. Every disagreement feels threatening. Every misunderstanding feels like something you must immediately fix. And this creates deep inner tension. Buddhist wisdom teaches that suffering grows when we become attached to controlling things outside ourselves. And one of the most impossible things to control is how other people interpret you. You can speak with honesty and still be misunderstood. You can love sincerely and still be judged unfairly. You can have pure intentions and still become the villain in someone else's story. This is part of life. And the more you resist this truth, the more exhausted your spirit becomes. Many people lose years of their life trying to correct every false perception, trying to make everyone see their goodness, trying to earn understanding from people who were never truly listening. But peace begins when you stop carrying that impossible responsibility. You realize something powerful. You are not here to manage every opinion about you. You are not here to shrink yourself into endless explanations just to make others comfortable. You are not here to spend your entire life proving your worth to people committed to misunderstanding you. Some people will only understand the version of you that benefits them. Some will only accept you when you stay small, agreeable, and silent. And the moment you begin choosing yourself, they may call you selfish, distant, or changed. But growth always looks uncomfortable to people who preferred your self-abandonment. This is why inner peace requires courage. The courage to let people misunderstand you without collapsing emotionally. The courage to stop defending every part of your existence. The courage to remain connected to your truth even when approval disappears. Freedom is not found in being fully understood by everyone. Freedom is found in no longer needing universal understanding to feel whole. There is something deeply peaceful about reaching the point where you no longer chase permission to be yourself. You stop over-explaining your choices. You stop justifying your boundaries. You stop feeling guilty for protecting your mental and emotional space. And for the first time in a long time, your mind becomes quieter. You no longer wake up obsessed with how you are being perceived. You no longer spend nights replaying conversations trying to fix people's opinions. You no longer carry the exhausting burden of constantly trying to be interpreted perfectly. Instead, you begin living more honestly, not arrogantly, not coldly, but peacefully. You accept that some people will understand you deeply and others never will, and you stop allowing that reality to destroy your inner stability. Because the truth is, a peaceful life is not built by winning everyone's approval. It is built by staying connected to your own truth, even when approval is absent. And the moment you stop explaining your existence to those committed to misunderstanding you, something inside you finally breathes again. Not because the world suddenly changes, but because you finally stop abandoning yourself just to be accepted by it. The day you return to yourself is the day you finally step out of everyone else's life and enter your own. There comes a moment in life that feels quiet on the outside, but changes everything inside you. It is the moment you become tired of abandoning yourself, tired of shaping your entire existence around other people's expectations, tired of carrying opinions that were never yours, tired of pretending to be okay while feeling disconnected inside, tired of constantly performing, adjusting, explaining, pleasing, and shrinking just to feel accepted. And somewhere deep within you, a realization finally appears. You have spent too much of your life living through everyone else's eyes. You were so focused on being enough for others that you forgot to ask whether you were truly present in your own life. This realization is painful at first, because you begin seeing how many years were spent seeking validation instead of inner peace. How many choices were made from fear instead of truth. How many times you silenced your own heart just to avoid losing people. And suddenly, you understand why your spirit has felt so heavy for so long. It was never meant to live disconnected from itself. Buddhist wisdom teaches that awakening begins the moment a person starts seeing clearly. And one of the clearest things a human being can realize is this: no amount of external approval can replace inner connection. You can be admired and still feel empty. You can be surrounded by people and still feel alone. You can spend your whole life trying to belong everywhere and still feel lost inside yourself. Because peace does not come from finally becoming acceptable to everyone. Peace comes from finally returning to yourself. And returning to yourself is not some dramatic transformation. It is something much quieter, much deeper. It begins in small moments. The moment you stop apologizing for your boundaries, the moment you trust your feelings instead of immediately doubting them, the moment you stop needing constant reassurance to believe in your own worth, the moment you allow yourself to exist naturally without editing every part of who you are. At first, it feels unfamiliar. Because when you have spent years abandoning yourself, self-connection can almost feel uncomfortable in the beginning. You are used to seeking answers outside yourself, used to depending on reactions, used to measuring your value through acceptance. But slowly something beautiful begins happening. Your mind becomes calmer, your emotions become clearer. Your decisions stop coming from fear. You no longer feel the need to chase every person who walks away. You no longer feel destroyed by every opinion. You no longer feel emotionally trapped inside other people's expectations. For the first time, your life begins feeling like your own again. And this changes the way you experience everything. You begin enjoying silence instead of fearing it. You begin listening to your intuition again. You begin making choices that feel aligned with your spirit, instead of choices designed to impress others. There is deep freedom in no longer needing to constantly perform, no longer waking up asking, "How should I be today so people accept me?" Instead, you quietly ask, what feels honest to my soul? And that question changes your entire life. Because the person who finally returns to themselves stops living from emotional survival. They begin living from inner truth. This does not mean life becomes perfect. People will still misunderstand you. Some relationships will still end. Some people will still judge your growth. But now, those things no longer destroy your inner foundation. Because your identity is no longer built inside other people's hands, it is rooted within yourself. And that is true freedom. Not freedom from pain, not freedom from difficulty, but freedom from constantly betraying yourself just to remain accepted. The day you return to yourself is the day your spirit finally stops wandering. It is the day your mind becomes less divided. The day your heart feels lighter. The day you stop searching everywhere else for the peace that was always waiting inside you. And maybe that is the greatest lesson of all. Your life was never meant to be spent becoming who everyone else wanted. It was meant to be lived as the truest version of who you already are. And maybe that is the deepest truth. Most people spend their entire lives trying to understand. You were never born to spend your whole life chasing approval, shrinking your soul, and carrying the weight of everyone else's expectations. You were not created to become a reflection of other people's opinions. The more you abandon yourself to be accepted by the world, the more disconnected your spirit becomes. And no amount of validation can heal a life built on self-forgetting. Buddhist wisdom reminds us that peace begins the moment awareness returns. The moment you stop searching for your worth in the eyes of others and finally return to the quiet truth within yourself. Because the greatest freedom is not becoming someone everyone approves of. The greatest freedom is becoming someone who no longer needs to betray themselves just to feel loved. So if this message reached something deep inside you, let this be the moment you stop living for everyone else and start returning to yourself again. And if you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more deep Buddhist wisdom and powerful life lessons that help you protect your peace, master your mind, and reconnect with your true self. Like this video, share it with someone who has been losing themselves trying to please everyone, and tell me in the comments. At what moment in your life did you realize you were living more for others than for yourself?